Hey, welcome to the Dr. Luke Show, where we talk about The Abridged Golden Bough by Sir James Frazer and my schizophrenic insights into the mythopoetic understanding of the Apollo missions. Back from northern India, our Ostic and our lovely co producer, Jordan. Greetings, guys.
Hello,
S-
hello.
Hello, hello.
So,
Only I am from Northern India, by the way.
yeah, I guess the way
Not
that I
Jordan.
set that up. Yeah, I set that up. I'm sorry. Um, so, we're going to be talking about chapter 25 today. Which is called Temporary Kings. And I think I can give a thumbnail sketch of it that will essentially cover what we're supposed to cover. And then we can get into the more tantalizing tidbits that are portrayed here on the title card. But as we've been studying the displacement of kings, the killing of the king ritual, we've come to understand that the king inhabits a spiritualized world where his sustenance, his thriving is intimately connected to the vitality of the people and the land. And whether it's at the end of a fixed term or the first signs of infirmity, he was put to death. As time has gone on, we have seen that the procedure has become largely ceremonial, and that's what we're going to cover today. Something that I wanted to address that was perhaps a nagging question for last time is if the king could be killed, and the idea was that his soul that is transcendent and then incarnates via metempsychosis or whatever in future instantiations was to reunite and become revitalized with the Godhead. How exactly did this work if they could have like a prisoner or a low caste person take his role? And I think what was sort of important and perhaps doesn't fit with our rationalistic understanding of how this all works is I want to think about it in philosophical categories like, no, like X person with X type of soul needs to fulfill X mission or whatever. You can't just swap anybody in there. I think that the way that these individuals viewed the world was so long as the role was projected onto someone and fulfilled the call of the gods or whatever the society demanded of them, it did the appropriate job. So anyone could take that spot. But as time went on and the king's role got more complicated and it became more political and he had a greater civilization to look after, it certainly killing the king became something that was not a sustainable enterprise. It would actually be destabilizing to the civilization. And then when they had these substitutes, these scapegoats that they would then kill, that too is destabilizing because these individuals are born into webs of connections, different tribes, families, et cetera, et cetera. And if you're constantly putting to death lower class people or prisoners or something like that, you're ultimately going to be fomenting destabilizing elements within your society. So it's just the natural progression that over time it becomes ceremonial, where you have these rituals where the king would abdicate for a few days, and there would be these silly things where individuals would have to stand on one leg, and do these dances and dress up, and everything, that fulfilled the slot in their mythological universe, and life went on, whether it was the inauguration of the agrarian season or the new year or whatever. So that is the gist. We'll look at a couple of examples. I think I'll let Jordan and Ostic correct me if I've said something incorrect, and then we'll go through these images here on the title card. What do you guys think? Did I do that appropriately? Did I leave anything out?
I
No,
think you nailed it.
you spoke too eloquently for YouTube, I think. It was it was pretty good. I was like, why is he going on? Is he reading from a script or something? But that was good.
No, no,
Yeah. Yeah,
no.
it was.
I credit it to the last minute shaving that I did before I got on here.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
became the disciple of Gnosis. I have prepared myself, and I just got the download.
Yeah, that's
That's a
wonderful.
that's an inside joke in case you saw the previous episode where we talked about ritualistic shaving.
Yeah.
No, I mean, I spend all week on this stuff, so I cram it all into my mind. I'm pretty good at like short term memorization. I'm terrible at holding on to this for the long term. So like, it was funny in preparation for this presentation. I had so many questions. Like, I was like, well, what about this? And what about that? And I'd be trying to find things. I punch it into YouTube. And then like a video that I did like a year and a half ago would be like one of the number one search results. Or, and I'm just like, I made a video on this. Like there was something on Young and Ulysses. James Joyce, which we're going to talk about a lot today. And I was like, man, I don't understand this. I don't understand this. And I'm like, I need someone to help me. And I'm looking at search results of myself, and I'm like, how come I can't remember something that I've already covered? you know? So I long-term storage is not my forte. That's
I
why I make
mean,
videos, is really to offload it.
yeah, that's good. That's good. It's why people write diaries as well, I think. It's like a
You think
diary.
so? I've never really it seems like really brilliant people I talk to, like, they can just pull it up anytime they need to. That's not me.
I mean, it depends upon what kind of conversation you want to have. Like, you have a lot of subtle things that you would need in order to, communicate your ideas properly. They would have some, everyone carries around their own kind of reel, like show reel cinematographers carry. They have their own show reel to, switch
Yeah,
on whenever they want to interact with other people, and they have their details. So it's like it depends upon the quality of your reel, I think. You cannot
yeah.
weigh each people equally. If someone might be only a sportsman, he would only talk about sports, maybe would not have to talk about anything else. And you cannot even properly talk about sports. It's difficult to talk about. So yeah, I mean,
Yeah, yeah. I mean, Jordan, I don't know if you wanna share any personal anecdotes about memory.
Oh, it's such a fun subject. I think it your experience to me points to the there's a limit on how much the mind can really store and
Mm,
properly assess reality and experience reality through. So to me, it's another indicator that's it's important to explore these wordless avenues or these less head brain focused avenues for accessing and integrating knowledge. And you made a joke at the opening of this about gnosis. So going through a ritual that brought you to gnosis and brought you that download, that's another piece of this puzzle. We can't possibly know all of the minute details. I don't think one human can know every single detail that touches these subject areas, whether it be the JFK assassination or whatever it is. You could maybe carry around all of them, around a certain number of them, or repeat exposure, of course. But I think ultimately, if we want to access those greater truths, we have to access it in different ways. Not to say we shouldn't use our brains, but there's more to it than that.
that's a really interesting thing that you pointed out there, because I think about that in terms of the realm of the archetypes, like how much a lot of the things that we're talking about today, I think will become self-evident. And they're really like operating in the background of the collective unconscious if we understand Jung correctly. And it's in a way, it's kind of like the Platonic or the Socratic like knowledge through memory. We're recovering something that is intuitive that we ought to know. So I think about that and how like these things aren't immediately intuitive to us, but we have access to them. And then also just that's a big reason why I use images, because there is so much. I'm not a word cell. I'm not. I don't just spit out reams and reams of text and claim to know what the hell I'm saying. But these being able to having all these images, the memes, the memification of this material allows me to riff so much more. Like we could stay on this title card for 3 hours. Um, so I want to get to the title card and what the images there and indicate, but I think Ostic wants to weigh in.
yeah, just a personal anecdote for me. So when I first started like getting all these downloads, so to speak, then I thought like it's too overwhelming for me to keep track of them, because I thought like I'd lose it. So first I thought I should create a Word document for myself. Then I would refer. But then I used to see videos and trailers on YouTube for different movies. I thought maybe I should make a trailer for myself. And since I'm Indian, so at first I thought I should make a video essay, but then I thought, okay, if I'll do a voiceover for an American video essay, it would sound very awful. So I was very self-conscious about showing my face or like speaking. So I thought maybe I those limitations allowed me to transform into different set of skills. So I thought I should create an edit, and that edit would serve as an entertainment, as a representation for the film, and as a memory bank for my own self, because it contains all the insights that I gathered for myself. Then I could access them whenever I want. So it's like a mini brain for me. For like, I created one for
Yeah.
Ice Bloodshot, I created one for The Shining. All the themes, all the theories that I was brewing up but could not, connect together. I tried to do that with that. So that was a good exercise, and I think the way you say it, I'm not a wordsmith. I deliberately told myself to unlearn a lot of things, like unlearn all these Asian words, you know, magnification, all these, I don't know what they're called. I think they're called gerunds or something. So I decided not to use them. I only use concrete things, only use things that can be seen, because these words, they act as cover, as blanket for things that don't, they are used to pull us away from reality. I think these words. So I decided to
I
not
think
use words, to dumb things down and focus on images. And as you said, images are more powerful and more evocative of, you know emotions and words and the places we can take it. Yeah, just that.
and the archetypes. Yeah, the archetypes too. And by the way, I really appreciate the fact that you have an outsider's perspective on the English language, because, like you say, there's so many words that we use that obfuscate and don't really allow us to communicate the meaning that we have, because there's all this other sort of ego consciousness that's involved with invoking the right vocabulary. Now, I would also encourage you to do voiceovers, because I mean, personally, aesthetically, I've always enjoyed the sound of an Indian accent. I think there's something song-like to it when it's speaking English. So I don't know if that's un-PC for me to say, but I think you should. Um, let's uh, let's talk about these images to give the viewers a taste of what we're going to cover today. Where to even begin? So, one of the first things we're going to cover in great detail is another aspect of the alchemical rebus. It's this egg-shaped woodcut that we have down here at the bottom that contains within it the divine hermaphrodite, who is encircled by the dragon on top of a winged globe. And throughout our study of the alchemical imagery involved in the moon landings, we've gotten pretty well acquainted with this image and what it signifies. And I just wanted to unlock another detail to it that really I didn't plan on talking about as much as I did, but it's like when I start tugging on a thread here, it's like it just really starts unraveling. We're going to be looking at this winged globe with the number 43 on it at the base of the divine hermaphrodite's feet. And so we're going to talk about the significance of that, what those numbers mean, what those geometric figures mean. Um, we are going to continue to look at Kennedy as this recurring solar archetype figure, as this is especially relevant to our whole discussion of the Killing of the King ritual. I have so many things I was not able to bring into this discussion that I'm going to continue to develop. And obviously, this involves looking at what seems to be his alchemical white queen of Marilyn Monroe, who is this anima figure who I have contended elsewhere is associated with the moon. Now, what was so interesting about my dig into this week is that it brought in the uncanny synchronicities and parallel lives of Kennedy and Lincoln, specifically as it organized itself around Tennyson's a poem, I should say, Ulysses, and James Joyce's uh, most beguiling text of the English canon, Ulysses, and how this also, I think, is creating some sort of archetypal node that is a form of confirmation that we are on the right path here, understanding that Kennedy is some type of recurring solar hero. What I did not, we're also going to be talking about the appearance of Ulysses in Dante's Inferno. For those who've been following along, it seems like part of the script of this reality is being drawn from the Divine Comedy. We looked at Virgil Gus Grissom, one of the captain of the Apollo 1 mission, as a psychopomp figure. And today we're going to be looking at Ulysses. He is actually in the Divine Comedy in his role. And all of this, all of this is intertwined with Joseph Campbell's take on the monomyth, the hero with 1,000 faces. I'll touch on it briefly. I thought I was going to talk about it more, but essentially he is saying that Ulysses is a solar hero who is returning to Penelope, who is a lunar figure. And we're going to get into that a little bit. The last thing that I have prepared for us here is I want to look at the appearance of the numbers 3 and 7. Last time we saw that this triad was persistent in the space missions, whereas the three space programs of Mercury, Gemini, and Apollo, the three astronauts that are part of the Apollo program, you have 2 land and 1 circle. So why is this number 3 coming up, and what's its importance to Apollo? And I found out in that process that it's highly significant. 3 is definitely associated with Apollo. You can see here that this is the Pythia who is seated upon the tripod, right? There's just one example of the number 3 associated with Apollo. But perhaps Apollo's most significant number is the number 7. So we're going to talk a little bit about that. And towards the end, I start to frame some sort of methodological, epistemological framework where we can start to talk about, when something that I've struggled with throughout this whole thing is when are we using poetic license, and when have we established that a mythopoetic framework is real and is touching upon our reality, whatever that may mean. So I don't think the paradigm I have is perfect, but it's a start. So those are going to be the subjects that we cover, and we can proceed to these slides that talk about today's content on temporary kings. Jordan, that'll be the next slide.
You got it.
And unless you guys want to respond to any of that, there'll be plenty of a chance to respond. But I think we're going to be fine. We don't have to dwell too long upon this. I think in the opening salvo, I talked about how we move from the killing of the king ritual to the substitute to a fake substitute, right? And we can just look at the first 2 examples here. There are 3 different slides, but Frazer points out to us in Cambodia during 3 days in February, a distant royal relative will be given full authority and receives homage. And he's paraded on an elephant. He tramples a rice mountain. I'm not exactly sure what that looks like, but I'd have to see that. Maybe Austin may do that. I don't know if they have rice mountains in India. I don't know if you can talk to that. But he's not executed. And yeah, it's just a symbolic rite of renewal of fertility in that culture. So anything, that's just one particular example. Were there any examples that jumped out to you guys? It's okay if
Um,
they're not. I mean,
I was
I would
thinking
just
about
say,
it in term. Okay.
Jordan.
sure. I just wanted to point out the common theme of the threes.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, obviously that comes up in the Bible as well, unless I'm misremembering, like the 3 days.
Yep. Yeah. Yeah. The 3 is not going, just because the 3 is associated with Apollo doesn't mean it's not going to pop up in other places, right? And so this is going to get into, and I didn't have a chance to get into it as much as I would have liked. I cut it. Yesterday was the SEC championship. I knew there was no way I was going to be doing work during it because UGA crushed Alabama, and I had to take a break because I just needed a break. But I think this is ultimately going to get down to the journey of the hero's journey, right? And depending on how you want to slice it up, right? Is it 3 stages? Is it 12 stages? Is it 17 stages? Something that I was hoping to do was to map, I think, all 17 stages onto the Apollo missions. But I think those can be reduced into 3, right? The absence, the gnosis, and the return. So that might have something to do with it too. And I think Campbell is getting that from Young, and I think Young is getting that from the killing of the king ritual. But I need more time to establish that. So next week I'll try to address it.
Could you go to the
Like
next slide? Okay.
sure, Jordan. Is there something you want to point out there, Osik?
I'm just looking at anything interesting to, riff upon. I don't see it because I think we have discussed it a lot of times. So I looked upon like contemporary examples of what it could be. Like today I had contemporary examples. Like if you want to talk about scapegoats and like why these scapegoats have a restoring function to the social
Yes,
fabric.
go ahead.
So there was a fire in a club today, and a lot of people died there. So what happened was that everyone started blaming the chief minister. Basically the mayor was being blamed for this, and they got him. But like in the end, it's nobody's fault though that fire. They just found a technical loophole and they shifted the blame on the mayor, and now people are like celebrating. Okay, now this is the guy to blame. He allowed this club to be built there. So I'm like people are not even addressing what the real issue was. Like the mayor had nothing to do with it. There's so many bureaucratic barriers before him, but you know all this is kind of a this mechanism. It satisfies some sort of an inner itch. It scratches that, I think. That's why
Yeah.
people are so drawn to it, and they keep repeating it. And it's like a level one narrative is what to say. Like there's level zero narrative, that tragedy, no one is to blame. Level one narrative, tragedy, you find a scapegoat. Level two narrative is like you actually investigate, like who and what caused it and things like
Oh,
that.
yeah. It requires too much nuance. It'd be just
Yeah,
easier to put it all onto someone and move on with life.
yeah, yeah. Like you were a reader of Hamlet, I think. Like, did anything jump out to you that the his uncle becoming a temporary king and him coming back? Like, did it connect with you on that level? I was hoping it would connect with me, but it kind of did not. But I thought like you might have some ideas.
It didn't obviously jump out to me. That's not to say that it wouldn't apply, right? I mean, his uncle I mean, it's not really a ceremonial thing. I mean, the uncle takes the throne, right? As a result of murdering Hamlet's father, right? So, um, it's not obvious to me. I'd have to think about it a little bit more.
Like it's not even clear. He might be hallucinating this whole thing. His uncle might not have murdered him because he sees a ghost of his father who tells him. It's not even clear. There's ambiguity there.
You don't think it's clear?
I mean, they made
That's
it clear
interesting.
in that movie,
Yeah.
the new Northman movie. That was very explicit that he saw his father actually die. But
Is
I
this the
think I
Hamnet movie that just came
no
out?
no 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 the Robert Eggers movie Northman.
Oh, I don't know this.
You have not seen it. It's based on the original Norse tale on which Hamlet was based. So it is the one that Shakespeare read and decided to make a story out of it.
Oh, well, I think we're calling it Hamnet in America. Hamnet.
That is a different story.
Oh, okay.
That
I don't
came
know.
out this year by Chloe Zhao, the director for Nomadland. That was for Alexander Skarsgård was playing the Hamlet figure in that one. So yeah, I mean, is it clear to you that his uncle actually killed his father?
That's the way that I always understood the story to go. Right, because the play reveals the conscience of the king, and doesn't the king like essentially confess? It's been, I have to say that my understanding of Hamlet has been largely through stage productions and movies. It's been forever since I don't think I've read it since senior year of high school, and I was not sensitive to these matters when I was 17 years old. So perhaps if I were to go back and read the actual text, there would be more ambiguity in it. I thought it was pretty clear, but I'll look into it. We have
I
so much
mean,
to cover though,
yeah,
so
yeah,
we
sure.
probably should keep going.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, we could look at another example here. This in the Samarkand, they have one day at New Year where they have an archer hitting the gold coin. He acts as a king for a day. There's this archery contest, and his execution is purely symbolic, and it's an echo of a previous king kill ritual. I mean, the thing that some of this may go into, I mentioned last week, there are a lot of like conspiracy theory people who don't think that Kennedy actually died the day of his assassination, that it was like a dummy that was rigged and exploded or whatnot.
It actually
I'm,
was. I mean,
I,
if you
I
consider
that's,
JT Tippett's story,
I'm fine with it. I'm trying to see the layer on top of all the different conspiracy theories. But if we were to apply it in some way, like, you know, we could cite that as a semi contemporaneous example. where
Yeah.
a dummy, a fake thing steps in to do this. But I'm not convinced I'm seeing the king kill ritual with the I've been going deeper into Downard and Hoffman stuff. I've been listening to a lot of the other texts that I have translated into my voice stream app. And I've said this many times, I find their analysis so fascinating, but the the organization by mortal men is still very difficult for me to get my mind around. I feel like there's too much mental gymnastics, and I feel like the theory that we're developing here of ultimately God shifting all these parts around makes more sense to me. But I love the analysis. I do love the analysis in terms of the the science of names that they do, and the discussion of the symbolism. It's totally fascinating. I think Hoffman and Downer give too much credit to certain groups.
Hmm. Like,
That's my take.
why do you think that people believe this this theory that a dummy might be there? Like, why do you think what is the initial evidence to propel them on this path? They might not be thinking this out of
Well,
the blue.
I think I think it's a possibility worth contemplating because there's squirrely things that happens with the physics of on the Zapruder film that we're given. A lot of people talk about those unusual physics as evidence of there being more than one gunman. I I think an alternative explanation is that we may not be dealing with truly a human body. That's something that we could take into consideration. Not to mention that it's pretty clear that the Zapruder film has been tampered with. There are scenes missing. You talk about the motorcyclists that have been edited in and out. So I'd say that those no, and there's I'm not super prepared to talk about it
I
extensively, but I think things like that sort of point to it being like a studio production
I have
or
some
made in.
ideas about it.
Yeah, sure,
I
go
mean,
ahead.
uh, the thing is that the doctor who did the post-mortem, who was supposed to do the post-mortem, he said that this person does not look like Kennedy. It's like Kennedy. It's like a Madame Tussauds version of Kennedy. That's what he commented. I think this is what
Yeah,
uh, caught on with the general populace, and they started creating this theory. But the thing is that that person that the doctor actually did a post-mortem of was not actually Kennedy. It was another guy who was a Kennedy lookalike who was assassinated on the
yeah.
same day. It was
Are you talking
Officer
about
J.
JD
Tippett.
Tippett?
Yeah.
Yeah,
So so the people talk about like the actual shooting was botched because he was shot from the front, and they said that. But then they decided, okay, we have to create this story that he was shot from the back. So they kill another guy. They had kept him as same as a failsafe, and then they grab his body and do a reverse job, a mortician actually, tries to fake a backwards wound, but like the person who actually killed him, he did a job of his own, so it looks like the bullet he also entered from the first front and also entered from the back on the final body, and the doctor was very confused. And in the Warren Commission report, he said that the only I can only say that the bullet took a U-turn in JFK's head because
yeah.
there's exit wounds on two exit wounds on the back of his head. That's what he said. So I mean, there's
I
a
was
lot of
listening to I was listening to like Hoffman and Hoffman or Downard or whatever. They were I have to fact check this, but I one of the claims they were making is that like Kennedy's brain was not preserved.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
I don't,
It was taken
and
out
that's what they say, but like no one
because
knows where it is.
if you get the brain, you can map out the trajectory, and then you can conclude that bullet did come from the front. But they do not want that, so they threw away the brain. It was pretty insane what happened there.
Yeah. I don't know. I mean, I'm not really some expert on the Kennedy assassination, but
I mean, I have
I
my
remember.
theories that Jack Lawrence killed him from the front, from the storm drain. Just
Yeah,
that.
I mean, I guess the way that my mentality works with everything that occurs on the world stage is before we start developing conspiracies about who killed and motives, etc., I think we always have to ask ourselves, did it happen? You know, before we start saying, oh, the reason why we haven't been back to the moon is because there are aliens there or there were Nazis on the moon or something like that. It's like, cool story. Did it happen? You have to first establish that, you know? So that makes me a radical skeptic, and I'm sure all types of denier claims will be issued against me. But
Yeah,
I mean, I just believe what I can see, things that I can prove.
that's a
So,
good way to go about it.
Jordan, what do you think?
We could
Yeah,
litigate this one all day.
yeah, yeah. We could.
And people
Well,
have.
they have. They're. I hate to say it because there's like people. There's like old school truthers who spent their whole lives. Like, think about the industry of the JFK assassination, right? Like the films, the books, the lecture circuit, stuff like that. There are people's livelihoods that are based upon this event, happening, and all the fan fiction, everything else that goes along with it. It's like sometimes I wonder if like all the psychological operations are just like job programs. Like, oh, we need to do something with these people in society, so let's create a conspiracy.
I call them pre-drilled rabbit holes,
Yeah,
areas that
yeah,
suck all of us into to
yeah,
discover all the
yeah,
discrepancies, all of the details, but ultimately you're still exploring a cave that somebody else fabricated for you
yeah,
to spelunk
yeah,
into.
yeah.
It's endless. You could spend your
It
whole
really
life
is.
doing it.
Yeah, I mean, think about, we just had the CK event, right? And think about how much that's driving the narrative. I mean, like the most popular song in America right now is "We Are Charlie Kirk." Like, I wake up every morning with the song in my head. So, like, people are making boku bucks on SoundCloud and doing different interpretations of that song.
And the t-shirt revenue.
Oh yeah, think about dude, I almost like bought a "We Are Charlie Kirk" hoodie for meta purposes. So,
A memento of our time, like
yeah.
my koozie necklace from college that says "Make America Chill Again."
Yeah,
I will
yeah,
forever keep it as a memento of the moment.
yeah. I'm not like a right-wing person, but I do enjoy the trend. I do enjoy the trend. Okay.
Yeah, there's something very siren-y about all of that, that I think is a layer on top of this. I think it's preying on us in a, like, another way, in an emotional way, beyond just, like, this pre-drilled rabbit hole concept
Yeah,
of, like,
yeah,
investigating it.
yeah,
And once you start
yeah.
introducing music, and when you think about propaganda of a nation,
Oh,
music is a
yeah.
big part of that.
Oh, yeah. Well, yeah, I think about the memification of Kirk and what this is doing. Like, what is this calling forth, good or bad? So, I don't know. Should we, proceed? I think we get the idea here. Do you guys wanna, address any of these other instances of mock kings?
One final thing. I think I sent a video to you a few weeks back. I think 1 month ago. So we talked about Obama and Osama being somewhat related.
Yeah.
I mean, is it applicable here? I thought about it. Like Osama was supposed to be the mock king that he was going to be executed for Obama to, like, could you talk about it?
Yeah, I mean, there's that claim, right? I believe it was something from the Sync Book channel that you sent me. That the idea this guy was trying to map these connections between Obama analogizing himself to the Lion King, and this was during the dispute with Donald Trump about his birth certificate. And then, like 2 days later, Osama bin Laden was killed, and effectively like shoved this matter underneath the table, etc. And he was trying to make the case that this was like some, I guess, a type of rejuvenation ritual for the Obama presidency or something like that. Um, I think it's interesting, especially when you see how the all the different news anchors like mixed the two names up, where they were like mixing Obama and Osama, et cetera, et cetera. Up. I find it super intriguing. I find it super intriguing. Again, I have to sort of posit that there's like puppet masters somewhere who are doing all of this. I don't know. Am I supposed to think there's like a whole is it like a whole department at the CIA of just guys that show up to work each day and go, okay, like let's get really creative on the world stage today. I I just really want to push back on and maybe it sounds like I'm not being courageous or something, but I feel like we just give too much credit to men.
Yeah, we talk about that a lot on this show. I'm still very partial to a blended model.
I'm
There
a
yeah,
I think it happens on some level, but I ultimately think it's and like we've talked about elsewhere, I think people can lean into it,
correct.
perhaps try to um affect certain outcomes. That wouldn't surprise me. I definitely seem to think that this is some sort of dynamic reality. But ultimately I don't think men are in control of it.
Yeah. Well, so much of magic is about appealing to, and maybe appealing is the wrong word and not speaking categorically, but a lot of, if you study, I'm just mostly familiar with Western magical traditions, and a lot of it is about tapping into these pre existing energies, these pre existing consciousness, in some, like, well, Catholicism is an example where you're calling upon a saint to sort of intervene on your behalf. And I could be getting this wrong. Somebody's going to correct me in the comments, I'm sure. But
Right.
my understanding of it is you're appealing to a saint to kind of intervene on your behalf within reality. So, that's how magic works often. That's one perspective of magic. Then there's more, I think, aligned with a lot of the quote primitive magic that we've been studying in the Golden Bough. A lot of that is about coming into right relation with the all
Yeah.
encompassing one, which is
Yeah.
slightly different. And that's the direction I tend to, I wouldn't necessarily call the things I do magic, but when I think about what is it that I want to participate in, that I gravitate more towards this. Okay, how do I come into harmony with all that is good? But certainly there's this other approach of, hey, there's these archetypes that exist. And if you read up on theurgy and even the pre-Platonic magicians, like they are observing the archetypal framework of reality, and they might not use those words, and saying, okay, I'm going to do XYZ in alignment with that to tap into that and kind of harness it for my own purpose. But ultimately, even in knowing that, there's an acceptance that there's something bigger than the individual human at play. So that I think would apply to the people who are doing black magic, right? But
Mm.
but there's this other element of fabricating details. Like, it's hard for me to separate who's doing what and with what awareness, and it's very messy, and I could foresee somebody doing a conspiracy. None of these words are real. It's words the CIA gave us, but that's what everybody calls these things. And putting in these different details for different purposes in a strictly material manner, right? Not really trying to invoke any spirit, but does that archetype flow through it when you make those conditions even beyond the desire or uh, intent of the individual? I don't know. This feels very messy, but I
Yeah.
agree. There's something bigger that's working through these things, whether people are aware or not.
Even if look, even if there are individuals that are trying to hack it or whatever, ultimately, I'm a bit of a determinist. Ultimately, they're subject to the dominion of God. So God wants them to do this in some way, in my opinion. Um, okay. Can we move on? I'm sorry, I don't have more to say about this. We're gonna be talking about King Kills for a long time. So
Forever.
we'll forever. So I mean, this is we've got plenty of time to address these issues.
And this is
So
crazy.
yeah, this is. So let me see. I got to build up a head of steam to try to talk about this. So I mentioned in the opening slide that we're going to be talking about this winged globe at the base of the rebus, the divine hermaphrodite. And I was like, what is this 4-3 about? And my first inclination, or my first perception of this, was that they were connected to the geometric imagery that is on the winged globe. Specifically, if you look, we have a triangle, and the 3 is on one of the sides of the triangle, so indicating that it's 3-sided, right? And then we have a square that's on its tip. So then we have we have the triangle and the square together. And then as we look closer, when I scrutinize this a little bit more, you actually see the number 1 at the top and the number 2 at the bottom, but they are shaded in some way. And this called to mind this figure that we talked about last time, which was Maria the prophetess, or Mary the Jewess. She goes by several different names, right? And her dictum of the 1 becomes the 2 becomes the 3, and the 4th is the 1, right? Something of that nature. And so when we do that, we can start to understand that what we're looking at here is, again, a balancing of the opposites. We are seeing that there are something that's known as the uh, tria prima. We'll talk a little bit more about that in a minute. But also the 4 elements that we've talked about in regards to the blue marble mandala image of air, earth, water, fire. So we have the 3 spiritual elements mixed with the terrestrial elements. So the 3 and the 4, in a way, are another symbol of the conjunction of the opposites. And when they come together, well, 4 plus 3 is 7, and 7 is this number of completion in alchemy, right? So we've got the monad that becomes the dyad, that becomes the triad, that becomes the quaternity here. Okay. We start from the prima materia, separation, duality, conjunction and synthesis. And like I mentioned, the elements of materiality, and ultimately the union of opposites and the completion. So, um, so I think we'll look at this a little bit more, but the entire rebus, not just this winged globe, because I think the instinct is to say, okay, well, this winged globe that the rebus is on top of is for our interests is the blue marble. I actually think it's the entire rebus, and really, whether it's the square and the compass, the divine hermaphrodite, or this winged globe with the 4 and the 3, ultimately these are all hinting at a perfect unification of the opposites. So that is what we're looking at here. When you see this rebus, I think we are to replace it with the blue marble in mind, and we can continue on this thought pattern. Jordan, if you want to go to the next slide, maybe. What I have done here is you see there at the bottom right, this tria prima, or the 3 primes. This is an idea developed by Paracelsus. So looking at that 3 from the winged globe, it is a reference to sulfur, or the soul, which is the principle of combustibility; mercury, or spirit, which is the principle of fusibility and volatility; and the third is salt, or body, the principle of non-combustibility and non-volatility. And so I was thinking about this, especially since we have dwelled a lot on the triadic nature that seems to keep popping up in the Apollo missions. And it's, we have 3 space missions. And one's named Mercury. So I'm just playing around here, but it seems like Mercury would fit with Mercury, right? And it so turns out that Apollo, as sun and kind of the guiding vision of this alchemical process, if that's what we're looking at, is in fact associated with sulfur. So I was like, okay, that's 2 out of 3, and those are, one's named after one of these elements. Another is associated with sulfur, which is the sole principle of this in the principle of combustibility, right? So I was like, that kind of leaves Gemini to be the salt, to be the principle of stability. And I think it is sort of this. We don't talk about the Gemini program a lot. It's very, compared to the other 2, it is relatively stable. They were primarily building the technology. It was kind of a bridge program. We had to get a guy into outer space, and then we had to get him on the moon. But there was this in between process where we had to develop the technology to connect these two events, right? And I think these might be. I don't know how to prove this, but they do line up rather well with the three primes, and then ultimately we have the four basic elements that are shown there, right? And I'm not sure, this is an image I grabbed off Instagram in terms of, we have the prima materia that is, and I'm not exactly sure how to talk about celestial salt and celestial nitre or whatever, broken down into the four basic elements and these tria prima. But I think this might be a helpful way to organize it. I'll pause there for a second to get some commentary. I can't believe I'm just blowing through this. This took me like hours to figure out, and maybe I haven't figured it out at all. So, what do you guys think?
This works. I think the last slide, it was pretty expansive. The three and the four thing. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
I think it works well. I mean, what they're trying to communicate. And even in this prima materia, I could see earth and water, and they create salt. I mean, because at the boundary of earth and sea, we find salt. So that is why they might have come up. And if we at the boundary, and sulfur is associated with fire, so like it's appropriate to give it fire and air. But I don't understand the mercury thing, like why mercury would be associated with water and air. I think there might be another symbolism going on there that
Yeah,
I'm not
there's a lot
aware
more
of.
to Yeah, there's more to tease out there. Maybe Jordan can speak to the all the. I don't necessarily understand fire and water signs and things like that. I mean, uh, you know, as far as mercury associated with water, right? We've talked about this in terms of the mercurial fountain. Quicksilver is in some sense associated with water because of how it flows. And then the air, kind of the messenger quality of mercury going between realms. Now those are the first things that come to mind for me. Now, why air and fire are automatically associated with sulfur and therefore Apollo, that's something I'm a little hazy on. I need to return to it. And why earth and water are associated with salt. I mean, I could reason through it, but maybe Jordan can help us out there a little bit. Sorry to put you on the spot, Jordan. It's just Ostic brought this to my attention.
Yeah. Is there a specific pairing that you're thinking?
The the air and fire and how that is connected to sulfur, maybe the earth and water to salt.
Earth and
Hmm.
why is water and air connected to mercury? Like, is it
Water and air connected to Mercury. Well, air is often intellect. So air signs have a lot to do with the mind often. So Aquarius is actually an air sign, even though he's the water bearer. Um, I might have to think about this a little bit more, or we could look at some of our astrology cheat sheets that show
I
us
mean, we
what's associated with what.
I don't mind just Googling it for a second if you want to
Yeah,
pull it up while we
go for
talk.
it.
I mean, do you want to do it? I
Yeah.
feel like you'd be able to find the answer faster for Ostic than me. Why is Mercury an air and water sign? Let's see, this will be the one that he's most interested in.
Yeah. I
because
mean, I
earth and
need
water I
to.
can understand, because earth and water, when when they meet, they create salt. So that is something that I understand.
Yeah, I mean, Mercury is really to me most associated with air than he is water. So I don't have a true. Let me see if anything pops up. But when you look at the air signs, you have Gemini, and Gemini is closely associated with Mercury.
Uh, the
Yeah, everything
beginning
I've.
in the beginning, they might have created this nomenclature based on actual experiments that they found out.
It's very
Because
true.
alchemy was about creating like elements. So mercury being this, it seems pretty magical. like mercury is very unique among metals. It's like shiny water that could actually poison you if you consume it. They might have known about it, so it's right to associate mystical qualities to mercury. I'm not sure why it's water and air, but like I can understand its inclusion here because it's pretty mythical. I mean, even I keep during childhood I thought about like I should never touch mercury. Like I used to get very scared when putting up a thermometer in my mouth. Like I might ingest it and die. So that is a visceral fear. I think that is why mercury stands the test of time. And even now we create gold, like actual alchemy, like in chemical labs, is done by processing mercury. Like they take a mercury and then they bombard it with protons or something to make it heavier, and then they turn into gold. So they're actually doing alchemy right now, but the process of making that amount of gold is so expensive that it's better to mine it out. So
All right, I'm just going to Google this for you guys. Did you talk about it while I was getting my snack?
A little bit. As I was Googling it, eh, the the main thing I could first off, in yes, like in a lot of mythology, Mercury is associated with water. What I could find is the transmutation of water, the properties of water and how water cycles through the earth realm. So it cycles through the soil into like the water. I don't remember what it's called, but basically it's cycling through the soil and the water systems and back up through the air through that heating and cooling process. Like
Yeah.
you talked about, Austic, it can look liquidy, like it's
Yeah.
silver water. So it's thoughts to be like star water, are what some traditions
Yeah.
call it. Yeah.
It's the association with water. I mean, it's contained within the name and the chemical symbol of Hg, which is what I said at the beginning, but its association with air. It's the ruler of Gemini. Mercury
Correct.
governs Gemini, an air sign associated with communication, logic,
Yes.
and duality, fitting its mental focus, speed, and intellect. Its rapid orbit and role as messenger god, aligned with quick thing, which is essentially what I was saying there. Let's look at the other two.
But
Why is sulfur?
it's also associated with Aquarius often. But yes.
So you read it to me. Sulfur and air make what's the other one? No, air, fire, sulfur. Okay, let's find that out. Okay, come on, AI. Um, I mean, sulfur's strong link to fire stems from the following characteristics. I mean, that makes sense: combustibility,
Yeah.
brimstone, etc. Sulfur and air. The connection to air is less direct than the connection to fire, but related through the process of burning. Okay, you can't burn without air. Okay, so it's more complicated than that, but that's the gist. And what's the other one we got here? Earth and water make salt. Why is salt and earth and water sign? Sorry,
We talk
I'm
about the salt of the earth. Like,
yeah,
I think intuitively salt is just it it's a very grounded earthly component. It's also used to clear in many traditions. It's used as a
yeah,
clearing energy tool.
yeah. Um, okay, so the water aspect, Ostic was getting correct because it's fundamentally associated with the ocean, right? That makes sense. And it's also in the part of the human blood. Our blood is very salty, right? So this is connecting
Mhm.
us but the earth aspect, I think it might have something to do with the cubic structure.
Hmm.
Um, and the cubic structure being associated with earth.
Yeah.
the explanation,
Oh,
what I think is, I mean, these alchemists, they were observers of nature. So what they would have, and they don't think, they think in like big images. So they might have roamed around the ocean and found out that ocean comes and they trap the water from the ocean, and then they find out salt from there. So I think
Mhm.
because this is salt is found where land meets water, that is the place where they extract salt from. So
mhm.
I think the union
Mm.
of two things would be the thing that they're talking about. So earth and water combine to make salt in that way, in that imagery. And then air
It's
and
interesting.
fire and is where you will find sulfur. If
I
there's a lot
like
of
It's
that.
air,
in,
there's
yeah. Sorry. Go ahead, guys.
Just that. I mean, that is why I could not figure out why water and air could be associated with mercury. But then I thought like water, it's pretty watery,
Mhm.
mercury.
Well, what's interesting about this is that how these designations are arrived at are through different means. Like when we're looking at mercury in the water and the air, well, the water sign is connected to its water-like appearance, right? It runs like water. But the air aspect is connected to its mythological association with Hermes going between realms and being this messenger, right? So those are like, okay, one is an observation, another has a mythological origin.
Well,
So
I would interject you may not be able to observe it under a microscope, but one can personally experience and observe the ability of the mind, the mental, to traverse these different areas, which to me is what air signs are all about.
you know more than me, but at least on the surface of it, how these designations are arrived at, there's not there. It seems to be something that an accretion that happened over time through multiple different sources, and not just like, okay, this is how we get this one and this one and this one. It seems less scientific than that, obviously, because we're dealing with alchemy. So, um,
Could I add something?
sure.
A lot of this is about the boundaries between Ostic pointed this out already, but I wanted to crystallize it. A lot of these are about the boundaries between one state and the other, or about the relationship or the process of moving from one stage to the other. That to me is the commonality of all of the things that are listed here. It's about transmutation.
Right, I'm still figuring it out.
Okay.
I yield the floor to you. I'm just kind of looking at the symbolism, still
Mhm.
figuring it out, how it all works. We
Uh,
got the woo
could
girl
you
brain trust over here.
like would you be able to riff on what have you talked about like Apollo being the sun god? Like, is it the association with fire itself is automatically associated with the sun? I
I
mean,
think
I find
so.
it
I think,
compelling.
yeah. Let me just check on that.
You don't need to
I mean,
check. I mean,
I
you're
think that's,
practical in.
um, I have to check my notes. Keep talking. I hate the dead air. That's why I don't Google while I'm doing it.
I mean, we
I
can follow.
mean,
This is a very deep subject. Each individual element really could be its own deep dive. But
Oh, for
fire
sure.
fire has many layers to it. There's traditions of the fire purifying the soul. There are traditions of the soul itself being a inner fire that radiates out. There's yeah, I mean, to me, the strongest to me association with fire is that purification. It both destroys and creates opportunities for new things to be born. They can be very y it can be untamed, shall I say.
the new
But it is
Avatar
I'm having
different
movie
trouble.
is
than
coming
spirit.
out.
I'm having
In the new
trouble
Avatar
like
movie, in the new
beyond it
Avatar
being
movie,
kind
they
of a.
talk about. Okay,
I'm having trouble get beyond it being sort of an esoteric axiom that sulfur or the sun rules sulfur. Um, I need to go deeper into that. So I'm going to make a note of it.
I would say too, like, people can just sit with it, you know? I think
sulfur is
intuitively
yellow.
it is, yeah,
Oh, okay. Yeah, that might have something to do with it.
yeah. I think these things are both complex and simple. So I'm reading The Alchemist again, which I hadn't read since high school, and a big theme in the book is one of them studies alchemy through all of the books and is super studious. and he gets kind of annoyed at this younger up and comer who, tries to read but is really just observing life, and they're able to arrive at the same conclusions. So I would say I'm sure the sulfur Apollo connections have many layers to them and can be revealed.
Can you pull
Use
this
that.
Instagram post up?
Sure.
Perhaps this will be illuminating on the subject.
Yeah.
So I'm just going to start reading it while it's coming up there. In
Mhm.
alchemy, the sun represents the principle of gold, both in material and spiritual transformation. It embodies the active, luminous force of the soul, the vital essence that animates and purifies matter. As the source of light and life, the sun governs the sulfuric element, symbolizing the fixed and enduring spirit within the chaotic substance. As the source of light and life. Its counterpart, Luna, represents the volatile and reflective nature. I don't know. It just seems to be this dictum that is out there. I got to go deeper into it,
I
but I didn't
mean,
draw it out of thin air. I just didn't understand why it is associated the way it is.
this is. I mean, it could. I think you're taking it too seriously. I think it's pretty self-evident that sulfur could be associated. I mean, it's yellow. There's fire there. I don't seem to have any problem with it. And since Apollo mission, they're connected with sulfur, and there's a triangle in the alchemical symbol of sulfur. So there's three there for you.
That's true too. I hadn't noticed that.
I mean, I don't think they have to be too. You have to have a lot too rigorous of an understanding to arrive at. I think intuitively you can understand these things.
Well, I don't think I
I
really
mean,
intuitively understood it. So I do. Maybe now I do. Let's can we go to the next slide?
Sure. And I
I
would say
just
I
want to be
agree with you, Ostic. And it's like a fractal. You could continue to study it and find all these different layers of the association. But I agree. It can also be simple. That's the paradox of a lot of these spiritual disciplines.
yeah. I think slide 541 covers everything that we've talked about so far, so I don't think we really need to dwell on it too much.
Mhm.
I've made the point about the rebus in general being identical with the mandala that is the blue marble, so I feel more comfortable about that, given what we've exhumed on the 4-3 connection of that winged globe and how it connects to the overall cosmic egg. So we can get into if we want to go. I want to start talking about Marilyn Monroe.
Oh, I'd like to say this isn't
Oh,
your
sure.
jam, but many people in our audience might be familiar with the Harry Potter franchise. And I cannot say that I don't know if these are intentional, but these symbols are lifted and inserted into the book. So the globe with the wings is exactly what they've made the snitch to look like, at least in the movies.
That's interesting. I hadn't. Yeah, I've never. Yeah, now that makes perfect sense. I know what that is. I know what Quidditch is. So
Yes. I mean, it's a golden globe with wings,
yeah,
so that might be kind of a blend, right? I'm not sure what the intended color of the sphere here is. And I know it's more like the world, but do we really even know what the world looks like?
yeah,
But there's that. The Philosopher's Stone is a big part of early on in the series. So I think this is probably an example of this archetypal language just being available and coming through art. I'm not sure that there's like a super deep esoteric purpose to it, but also maybe there is. Maybe she knew exactly what she was doing. I just think it's interesting. And the idea that the snitch is something that you can never catch is fascinating to me as well as an
yeah,
allegory. Like everybody, it ends the entire game. It ends everything. If you can just capture the world in your hands, the whole game is over. And so it's very coveted. It's a prize that is voraciously like sought out, and people battle over it. But it's very elusive as well.
yeah. I have no idea. I mean, I'll defer to you guys. Harry. I was a little too old for Harry Potter when it came out, but yeah, it seems pretty clear, like you're saying, that that's where she got that idea. Did she pull these things at random, or is there some sort of organization to this all?
I really have no idea. I do feel like I'm projecting onto it this is a metaphor for, going after the
Yeah.
world or things like that, but very specifically, she talks about the Philosopher's Stone. In the Philosopher's Stone as well, towards the end, the sorcerer has 2 faces, which is very interesting. So that comes up a lot in the alchemical texts and images. Maybe she had access to some alchemical books and saw these pictures and was inspired by them. Maybe they just came through intuitively, unconsciously. I really have no idea.
Well, I think she named one of the books the Philosopher's Stone, right? So it seems to me that she has taken the time to at least brush up on some of the fundamentals.
For sure, yeah.
Okay. All right, let's talk about Marilyn Monroe. Okay. So, Jordan, why don't you read that quote for us if you don't mind?
The truth was that I was afraid everybody would laugh themselves to death at the thought of me having a crush on such a famous president. But I truly adored Abraham Lincoln. I used to have dreams that I was his illegitimate great granddaughter. Before it was over, I let him, Milton Green, talk me into taking a picture with my great grandfather in my Cadillac car, Marilyn Monroe.
All right. I think this has to be one of the most insane pictures uh, of Marilyn Monroe and pop culture in general. I would say I've got other ones that I think rival it in some ways. The What was pouring through this woman was earth shattering. So think about this. Like everywhere she goes, she's taking a portrait of Abraham Lincoln because she seems to think that there's some sort of intimate connection between the two of them, right? That he's some sort of father figure to her. And she's brandishing, maybe people did this in like the 40s and 50s, and it was as common as it is for us to take our computers everywhere or something like that. But this is such a bizarre thing that you would just carry around a photo or a portrait, let's just say, that is of this magnitude. And she's posing with it in the back of a open air car, right? And this is not a year before the Kennedy assassination. This is like, I think this photo is either from 53 or 55. I'd have to check to know for sure. Okay, this is from the early or mid 50s, at least 10 years before um, the assassination. And I don't even know if Kennedy is known to anybody in America at this time. He might have been a junior senator from Massachusetts. I'm not exactly sure when he got in there and how many terms he served. He may have just been starting his political career. I have to check my notes on that. But the look in her eyes, it's not like this happy look. It is kind of this, it's like, do you understand? It's like looking at me like, do you understand what I'm telling you? That like I am somehow tragically enmeshed with this archetypal figure. Okay. We, I'm not long for this world, and whoever I'm holding is not long for it either. That's what I see in this. Did Marilyn Monroe know that? I don't think so. Did a CIA officer say, okay, what you're going to do is you're going to look very longingly at the camera, and I'm going to put this portrait of, of Lincoln in your arms? Do I think that happened? I don't think so. And to me, it's foreshadowing the assassination of JFK. And this is unreal when you take into consideration, we even in like normie high school, I got brainwashed in a public high school, and they would freely talk about, isn't it weird? Like, I think in my history book, they had like little charts like we have here, little tables like this, where they announce the uncanny synchronicities between Lincoln and Kennedy, them both winning office in 60, them both being succeeded by individuals named Johnson, them both being assassinated in mirror kind of parallel ways. So this was like something that was known to us, but we kind of brushed it off. It was like, oh, this is just one real anomalous thing from history. But I found some more, which I'm going to share, that I don't think anyone else has ever really discovered before. I'm going to share those today. And then here on the right, I went back and I revisited the Happy Birthday episode where Marilyn sings Happy Birthday to Kennedy in 1962, a year before his death and a few months before her own. And the guy who's introducing her calls her onto stage and she doesn't show up. And so then he says, when she finally does show up, he says, "Mr. President, the late Marilyn Monroe," again, foreshadowing her early demise. And what that does is, in a way, it establishes this linkage between birth and death, right? Is she's going to sing Happy Birthday as she's introduced as the woman whose death is imminent, right? So somehow their lives, the celebration of life is also some sort of acknowledgement of death. And there's some sort of rebirthing thing going on here. And the top right hand thing, just kind of, we've been playing around with this idea, and I'm going to develop it a little bit more, that the characters that are involved in this particular episode of world historical drama seem to be shadow and light aspects of one another. We've talked about Kennedy as being this solar hero, this archetypal solar hero. I think we can talk maybe about RFK as being the shadow twin, but I'm not committed to that. I've got some images that I want to look at. But we've also talked about the light and the dark side of the anima or the moon and the lunar aspects of Marilyn and Jackie. And there's these books that were put out by J. Randy Taraborelli or whatever. And the reason why I even show this is, one, to indicate the fascination between these two women as opposite sides of the same coin, but a revelation that he discovered recently is that they shared a therapist. Jackie and Marilyn shared a therapist, and apparently he in this biography that he did on Jackie, she was like trying to pump this therapist for info on Marilyn because this is to perpetuate the idea in the mythology of America that these women shared a man. So I'll let you guys respond. I'm going to keep developing this idea, but I think in general, rather than seeing Kennedy and Lincoln as this like Illuminati plot to signal like we can do whatever we want, we can make this man die and we can make him die in this mirror way to another man that died, and we can pose Marilyn Monroe with Abraham Lincoln. I think the bigger takeaway, and this is why this thesis that we've been developing is so fascinating to me, is no. It's not that JFK is the reincarnation of Lincoln. It's not that a secret society is posing them this way. It is the eruption of an archetype into our reality, okay, from the collective unconscious, all right? This mana personality that prances upon the stage, one's unifying the nation, the other's taking the nation to the moon, okay? It emerges that it's the recurrence of an archetype. Now, of course, this involves postulating metaphysics, and nobody wants to believe in God anymore. But I'd rather believe in God than all these like demonic cults that are doing things, okay?
That's well put at the end. I'd rather believe in God than all these demonic cults. I mean, that's a good way to end this discussion. Like, and all discussions about it. But another thing I noticed is that she's wearing the same pinkish shirt. The color of her shirt is the
Yes.
same as Jackie had when she was with him. And it's
Yep.
like,
It foreshadows her magenta Chanel dress.
and like, I think Jackie also faced the back of the car and she was like, you know, like while they were driving away. I mean, that
Yep.
also. I'm not, I'm just picking up random details. This is good. This is good. This
I
is
think it's pretty good
pretty
too.
interesting.
You're going to love the Joyce stuff. You're going to love the Joyce stuff.
The other thing that I wanted to add was like in the previous episodes, we linked, I think, Private Pile from Full Metal Jacket to JFK because of him eating the jelly donut and then him getting shot through the head
Mm-hmm.
and being shot, you know. So, there's a scene in Full Metal Jacket when they do his soap party. at the end when
Yeah,
he's
yeah,
sleeping.
yeah, yeah.
So
They beat
what
him up
is
with the soap.
yeah? After the beating has been done, the cowboy says to him, "Happy birthday" to him. So it's like there
Mm.
itself is also a birthday and death day kind of symbolism, and he's crying, he's waking up. It's like the other private pile is being born that day,
Yep,
that has been hardened by all those blows. I mean, that movie is a bit more
yep.
psychological, but you talked about this death and life thing, so I thought I should bring that up.
I think it's pretty clear that Kubrick is signaling all that Kennedy assassination stuff. Like the jelly donut is something that's very much associated with Kennedy because he has that famous line about "Ich bin ein Berliner" or something like that, which means "I am a jelly donut." And then if you start thinking about like jelly donuts, like they ooze a red liquid out of them, right? Or like a red filling. And then that kind of like becomes a symbol of the assassination. So like in a way, he actually is a jelly donut in some ways. They turn him into one, or in the movie
Oh
on the world
God,
stage. Yeah.
that makes a lot. Oh,
Yeah.
I never
Yeah.
thought about that.
It's
He becomes the jelly donut. Oh,
Is that poetic license or is that what we're looking at?
no. For plausible deniability, we'll call it poetic license.
I think it's poetic license, but that's good. I mean, I'm not blaming anybody. I mean, if I'm blaming anyone, I mean, I'm not even blaming anyone. I'm just saying this is God. So I see this whole realm as like a realm for spiritual development. We are either being punished or taught or both.
Yeah, and even Gita says that you'll keep reliving this realm until you learn your lesson. You'll keep making the same mistake. You'll be kept there in that zone, and unless you improve, you will not be allowed to ascend.
Jordan, you want to weigh in?
I wouldn't frame it as punished, but you know,
Well, learning new things is hard.
yeah, of course.
And you would agree that spiritual growth is not an easy thing.
It's not complicated, but it is not easy.
There. So how about that?
I totally agree. And our willingness to learn or not learn does have consequences.
And
We
sometimes it's only the consequences are the only way that we do learn.
Right. Yeah, and that's I think why I shy away from the word punish because it's really we're growing and we're all going to have our unique path through that. It's going to look different from everyone. I don't see it as a punishment. It's just your choices have consequences and outcomes. And that's the feedback loop that we have, which is amazing, so that we can get to where we need to go.
Yep. All right. How's your study of Joyce going, Ostick?
It's going. I'm kind of swimming in it. I'm not reading it a whole thing, but I'm swimming in the ideas about like what are the images that conjures that it is trying to create in my imagination. I'm reading a whole book of introduction, like 500-page book, and
Is it is
it's
this the
it's
skeleton key that you're reading?
no, not
Joseph
the
Campbell's
skeleton
skeleton?
key. It's a collection of blog posts by someone
Oh, okay.
in the 2000s from the early internet. So I'm reading that, and it's like he has made a book of puns. This all its whole thing is filled with puns, and he's trying to map out our whole consciousness into language. And because language is insufficient, he's trying to come up with a lot of puns so that he can signify as much as possible. So it's like he's constructing a building that can encompass everything. And since it's the night novel, there's a lot of things about how our senses play a role. I mean, most interesting thing that I realized was that we do not create, like we do not have our universe as given. We create it. by interacting with it. I think that is what his thesis is, that we interact with it, and that is how the universe animates itself. Even the
I think
whole, yeah, even the whole
I,
Finnegan's Wake, he's a dead body, and since people start dancing around him, he wakes up again. Like
you know,
even, yeah. So there's a lot of those things going on in it. So I really enjoy the imagery of it. It's like a whole party is going on, and
well,
word
you
plays.
might have to tap your knowledge of Joyce because it's been a while since I've looked at it. But I'm actually I actually forgot there's a slide in between that, which I'm really proud of myself for this next slide. So maybe we'll go to that. Okay, so and Jordan, we might need. I don't know if you can zoom in on that image. We might need to do that at some point. So this photo in the top left-hand corner was one. It was actually relatively recently released. I think it came out in 2010, and the reasons for it is that it was a part of a stash, and some estate didn't want to disclose it. But there are like precious few images of this. Might be the only one of Kennedy with Marilyn Monroe, and this is backstage at the event where she sang him happy birthday. And I just started looking at this picture and I just went deeper and deeper into it. Now, look, maybe someone at some intelligence agency has decided to embed some code in this. Okay, maybe some supercomputer has put this together and this is AI and it's not even a real image that we're looking at. Or maybe it's just the poetic nature of the reality bleeding through. But when I look at this, it and I haven't even diagnosed the entire thing. It gets stranger and stranger and stranger, especially since we're working off of this thesis that somehow Kennedy is the instantiation of the archetypal solar king. Okay. So, which I've, for reasons that perhaps I've inadequately developed and we'll deal with more, is associated with Ulysses. I think ultimately the Odyssey is about the wandering sun returning to the moon. It's about the divine marriage, and Penelope is going to be this moon-like figure. And this is an idea that I think is articulated better than myself by Joseph Campbell. But in this image, we have JFK. There, thank you so much, Jordan. We have RFK. We have Marilyn Monroe. We have Arthur Schlesinger, the historian Arthur Schlesinger, which I don't know a lot about, but I know enough to be like, okay, this is potentially interesting. And in the back there, we have Harry Belafonte, the guy that wrote the Banana Boat song that's in Beetlejuice, Deo, right? Daylight Come, I Want to Go Home, who is known as the King of Calypso or the Calypso King. So, what am I getting at here? So, for starters, Arthur Schlesinger had a theory of history that essentially it was an oscillation between liberal and conservative forces that went on for like 30-year cycles. He was not a Jungian and did not use Jungian language. But the fact that he's looking on at this, right? The fact that he's the spectator of these three souls, and he has a philosophy of history that involves cycles, I find utterly fascinating, especially since we are talking about the recurrence of archetypal imagery that is erupting into the reality. In the last slide, I tried to make the case that it's not Lincoln reincarnating, not the soul of Lincoln reincarnating as JFK or some secret society doing something, that these are eruptions of archetypal imageries that might be on some sort of fixed cycle. For all I know, maybe it is every 30 years. I don't know, but these two seem to be linked. Okay. And it spans at least 100. So I find that to be utterly fascinating that this man of cyclical history is watching this triad here. Okay. Now, frequently with the solar hero, he does have a shadow aspect. And I don't think it's possible to think about JFK without RFK. And in some ways, he was always, kind of in his brother's shadow. He's the one that we kind of forget about sometimes, right? But he met the parallel fate. They both end up dead by assassins, right? And you could maybe argue that JFK was the more aspirational, more charismatic one, and RFK was the more like, uh, um, I don't want to. I want to mental. I want to say more like. I mean, I don't want to say conniving. I want to say like plotting or something like that. Not necessarily in an evil kind of way, but perhaps a different aspect. And we've talked about Marilyn being this lunar anima figure. Well, what's so interesting about this photo is you see that RFK is casting a shadow onto Marilyn Monroe, and it's almost like it's a lunar eclipse. Like it kind of is in a way confirming. I see a lot of I see a lot of confirmation with this photo, okay? Like he is eclipsing her in some way. And in the back there, we have Harry Belafonte, which I've said is the Calypso King. I don't think it has anything to do with music here. Calypso is a figure from Greek mythology, especially the Odyssey. Well, what happens with Calypso in the Odyssey? She is a seductress who uh, who tries to get Ulysses to stay on the island with her and give him immortality if he doesn't return to Penelope, right? Because that's his whole goal. He's trying to get back home to Penelope, right? And eventually she lets him go, right? And he does return to Penelope. So I guess what I'm trying to say here is like, it's kind of invoking this solar king. And again, we have someone in the background there of Kennedy who's invoking this solar hero energy again with the Calypso myth. And of course, Marilyn Monroe would be something like the seductress that is Calypso, who is an aspect of feminine lunar anima. And I hate to say this because this makes me sound totally schizophrenic. Just look at the hairline on the back of Kennedy's head there. It looks like an X to me. And well, you know about X's. And it's again, it's kind of foreshadowing his death. So is this a perfect decoding of this image? Is this image even subject to proper decode like I've done? Am I allowed to decode journalistic images according to Greek myth? I don't know. But what do you guys think when you see all this here? Is this just interesting? Or if I went to just anyone anywhere and be like, hey, look at this photo, let me tell you a story about this, I would sound so insane. Am I? Just check me. This is peer review. What do you think?
I mean, there is any other significance to this photograph? Like that could be is it?
Oh, I want to say this. This is one of the photos that people use to develop the myth. And I'm calling it a myth, not necessarily because it's not true. Just this is that somehow um, there's the myth that JFK and RFK shared Marilyn, which kind of gets to their twin, right? That when JFK got bored of her, he passed her off to RFK. That's that's the thing in popular mythology is, but this is the image that people point to. See, oh, he's he's not that interested in her, and now and Bob, but look at Bobby gazing at her, right? So this is one of those images where um, this is like one of those state sanctioned conspiracy theories that you're allowed to entertain. Like they put it in like People magazine and stuff like that. Um, so people, that's the other significance to this.
Yeah, I mean, the way you've pulled out the symbols, they're pretty interesting. I mean, I would not be surprised if you could find on the spines of these books, there might be
Oh,
some. I mean, there's a historian. I think they're sitting in a library or something. There's
yeah, they're in
there's
some kind
that
of
aspect
study.
as
If
well.
I didn't even try because I spent so much time on this. I'm sure you could zoom in and find them. Jordan might want to try that. Something else I want to say, so I don't forget here. But there is a Jung does talk about the hero figure throughout his works, and this is going to set the stage, I think, also for the hero's journey when we get to Campbell. But there's generally 5 stages of this, although not necessarily laid out perfectly. But we have the emergence of the heroic symbol, inflation and apotheosis, the confrontation with the shadow, death, and then ultimately the mythologization or the rebirth of the individual. So this is going to be important for understanding this later in the hero's journey. Can we see any of those book titles? You're doing a great
There's
job
one
there.
book called Cicero's Oration.
Ooh, yeah.
I think we could find out a lot of these books. They must be about philosophy and politics.
I mean, if James Joyce's Ulysses is on the shelf there or Tennyson's Ulysses, I'm going to lose my mind because that's where I'm going next with this.
Yeah, we might be able to find it better off of the original. Yeah.
I don't want to sound crass, but I mean, there's if people are saying that this is some sort of a sexual situation there. So even in the Eyes
Yeah.
Wide Shut thing, at the end, when Tom Cruise, his journey to in the Somerton building ends in a library. So it's like I thought, why library of all places? I mean, there could be a lot of other things, but it's it's in a library, and I thought, is it supposed to be a place of knowledge that is being corrupted by all these people?
Ooh. I like how it's in a place. I like the setting that you're pointing to, like that it being and us, it goes back to our conversation about memory and accessing archetypes and images and stuff like that. It's like these books are like we're the computer and these are the programs that we can pull out and play or whatever. I think about the scene from 2001 where he's like taking out his memory cards or whatever. Like these are like our memory cards. Like I always tell people, like in these images or in movies, you have to read the books that are flashed. They're put there for a reason. Um, but yeah, I think it's a place for knowledge. I like that. I like that a lot, Ostic.
The other thing was also that, because if you read the book by Kafka called The Trial, so there's that movie where he goes to a courthouse to defend himself, and then he picks up the law book, and when he opens it up, it's all filled with erotica, and he's like, "Oh, what are these obscene images? This is supposed to be a book of law. I'm supposed to gain knowledge here. Who writes these things?" And he closes the
Right.
book. So it's like, I mean, because
Jordan's
Kubrick
been
is
studying
gay.
law, so she probably has something to say about that.
Yeah. So it was, I mean, that's a Franz Kafka novel. So that happens in that. I mean, Kubrick was a good big Franz Kafka fan as well. So, and his
Yeah.
celebrated Mr. K, they're both Ks. So he liked those kind of things. My name, Stephen King and SK, Stanley Kubrick, SK.
Yeah. Yeah.
He really enjoyed those things.
I'm gonna look closer at these books for next time.
Yeah, even before this, you had called that out. You were like, "I've already spent too long
Oh yeah. Well, we're
for
gonna
this
look at
week."
books in the yeah, we're gonna look at books in the next slide.
Mhm.
Um, yeah. What do you want
I
to say, Jordan?
was I was really struck just now zooming in, the X is so apparent on his head. I will
Isn't it?
admit, the f
Isn't it?
the first time I saw it, I was a little skeptical 'cause, like, I saw it, but it was so small. This is crazy. And where it happened in Dallas, they still have X's on the road. You know how you'd do lines, like the yellow and white lines to
Mm.
designate the flow of traffic? They have X's on the road permanently that are maintained. There's 2 of them, I think, at Dealey Plaza. So that, like, it's very weird. This
Well,
photo feels very weird to me.
you could also say that with Bobby occulting Marilyn there, that this picture not only foreshadows the death of JFK with the X on his head, but the darkening of her. It's you could maybe make the case that both of them, there's a telegraphing that both of them are not long for this world.
There's a lot going on here. This feels like a collage to me. There's something about it spatially that I'm not prepared to do the line analysis and the shadow analysis. There's something about it that feels very artificial to me.
I mean, the fact that it came out in 2010, I think, fact check me on this. I could be wrong, but the fact that it came out so much later and it's so iconic, like I, it feels like someone had some time to put this together. I'm not gonna lie. Like it feels like the fact that this was just sitting on a camera roll somewhere or in a file somewhere. But I don't know. Maybe I could. I mean, I've looked at we've looked at the Rice Moon speech, right? And as I've looked at it more and more, like the fact that it was at the Owl Stadium and the eagle on on the podium, and we've looked at the owl as a lunar figure. You know, maybe every photograph is going to have these things in it, especially when you're like an important person. I think it'd be interesting if we all look back at old photos of ourselves from like college or something like that. Do we see our futures written in them?
Maybe so. It's super interesting. I'm still
I
scanning to
wonder
find the exact.
how magical it would be to be Mr. Schlesinger. It's like
Mm.
you're
Yeah.
being shown the things that might be clues. It's like it's strange. It's like things are happening around the world all the time that might clue us in into what could be a historic moment, but we might miss it even when it's right in front of our eyes.
I think he knows that he's witnessing something incredibly historical. Like, how could you not know, right? You've got the AG and the president and the biggest movie star on earth. So he's got to know that. But like, you know, now that we have this air quotes knowledge, could we find ourselves out in the world and see the omens and see the signs and know what's coming?
Hmm. I mean, I
It
hope
only
not.
really makes
I
sense.
hope not to
It,
see the signs. That would be too
it
scary.
like this photo, like only really makes sense in retrospect. Like, you know, like if we already know the outcome, so we can go with a backward glance, we can say, oh, it was always there. It was always there.
I
This
do think
is
a
what
lot of our life works that way. In hindsight, certain things make a lot more sense. Oh, that's why I was guided to do that, or that's why I met those people. But in the moment, you don't know. That's part of it. It's the game. I think it's more of it's available to us probably than we're tapping into, but I don't think we have to know. What's crazy, maybe I don't think you mentioned this. This is the only photograph of the two of them together that the public
Yeah.
has ever had,
Yeah.
which is very bizarre.
Yeah.
And it was released in the 2000s,
Yeah.
like around 2010.
Yeah.
I
Something
mean,
weird.
they allowed so many rumors to brew all this time. Imagine not having a single photo with someone and then so many wild stories about you and that other person is circulating in the public consciousness for decades. It's
Yeah.
a strange story.
And I don't think this photo proves anything. I mean, it's not like, aha, smoking gun. Clearly, they were both having an affair with Marilyn. Like, it's not evidence. You know,
The
the
other thing I
president meets a
wanted to
lot of
say,
people.
yeah, I mean, people they want this to be real. I mean, there was a movie that came out a few years ago about Marilyn Monroe, and people said, "Oh, this is such a bad movie. It's showing her in such a bad light." But I think the point of that movie was that that movie was based on the imagination of all the people. It that people wanted to portray her as a traumatic, tragic figure. The movie actually did that. That she is a very traumatic, tragic figure. Her mother is burning. She has these it's like all your fantasies about her being a tragic character and her getting abused by JFK. The movie does that. It's like so weird, and people had such a whiplash that oh, what I have been thinking, what I had been imagining all my life, and now it's being portrayed on a movie. They have a violent repulsion towards it. Like all my wild imaginations with no proof, because there are no proof that her husband Joe DiMaggio beat her or something. People just keep talking all the time about it. There's no proof about like a lot of the tragedies in her life, but it's like her whole public persona has been so warped up. She's not even her own person anymore. That's why she's her name change makes more sense. Now she's Marilyn Monroe. That's another, it's just a play-doh of some sort that people want to twist and turn for their own imagination or for their own agendas. And
Yeah,
when confronted with like what they had done to her, uh, they reacted violently to that movie.
yeah. It's the one with Anna de Armas or something in it, or someone in it.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I need it. I should see it. It's an interesting choice that they
Uh,
chose her.
don't see it.
I I don't know what to say. We'll get into it another time. We're up against the clock here, so let's keep going, okay? And I really want to make sure we address the Joyce and Tennyson stuff. Okay, so I don't know if you guys have ever seen these photos before. Jordan has, because I've been showing them to her all week. But they really did this thing where they had Marilyn do a lot of performative reading. Okay. And these are not the only books that she's photographed reading. And so there's this part of the mythopoetic communication of Marilyn is that, oh, she wasn't a dumb blonde. She was actually very into literature and would just love to read. And that may be true. I don't know, but like, let's be real. Like this photo of her reading Joyce's Ulysses at a playground. Do we really think she's just carrying this around? What's I find this to be highly unlikely. I think she had books, access to books. She stages with them because ultimately this feeds into the male fantasy of the best of both worlds, where you can have the seductress and the brainiac all at once. Um, where to even begin with this? So I think it's important to look at the books that she's posing with. Um, let's talk about Ulysses first. I have to give Anna Nicole Wordsmith, our friend Nikki, major props for helping me understand this, because for years and years I have claimed that it's highly significant that she's reading Ulysses, and she said something to me. She's reading the last page of it, and I said, "Oh, that's it." Now I don't think Anna Nicole had read Ulysses, but I have. It's Molly Bloom's soliloquy. Okay. And this is like one of the most beautiful stream of consciousness chapters in the entire world. It is perhaps the justification, the reward for having made it all the way through Ulysses. And the name of the chapter is called Penelope. Okay. And that insight, that observation that Nikki had really helped me understand everything else that I'm going to tell you here. So it's not just the book, it's the chapter that she's on. And why that is important, I've already sort of alluded to it earlier, is that the Odyssey, which Ulysses is based upon, and that Campbell says is ultimately about this wandering solar figure that is returning to the lunar figure, right? An example of the union of opposites, the conjunction, the sacred marriage of alchemy, right? The sun and the moon together, right? Essentially, what we're looking at here is a reenactment of that. We have the sex pot, we have Marilyn, we have the lunar figure, we have the anima, right? Who is trying to decode the ego, the Apollonian, the golden sun king, right? She's holding it in her hand. This is like the most difficult book in the Western canon, one of the most difficult books, okay? And she is trying to assimilate it into her being. Like she's waiting to meet the sun king, okay? It is the book itself, because and I'm going to develop this further, there's reasons to associate Ulysses with JFK. It's like a ripple from the future beckoning her to unite with this solar figure, right? And there's also, we looked at that image earlier of the King of Calypso, the Calypso King, Harry Belafonte, in the background of RFK and JFK. There's also a chapter, it's chapter 4 of Ulysses, called Calypso. So here we go again. We've got that again. So in a way, because she's reading the final chapter is about there's a stream of consciousness, the collective unconscious, the anima, etc., is associated with the lunar figure, right? Um, she is Molly Bloom. She's reading Molly Bloom's soliloquy. And I think that if the transference works with Kennedy being the solar king, he is Leopold Bloom. And she is waiting for him, just as Penelope weaves and waits for Odysseus. And I could go deeper on this, okay? Like, I could go deeper on this. Like, she's at this playground. We've got the lush vegetation in the background, but she's on like a carousel kind of thing, right? This is like the moon going around in the sky, going through, waxing and waning, moving all around.
This
What's
would be
happening here?
amazing
What is
if
happening
you.
here, guys?
I wanted to ask you one question. Is that why are you associating JFK with Ulysses in the first place? Like, I think I missed that maybe.
Oh yeah, I think I'm jumping all over the place. I mean, um, uh, there's we're going to get to it, but ultimately, it's going to get to the parallelism between Lincoln and Kennedy. First off, Kennedy's favorite poem is Ulysses by Tennyson. Okay.
Okay.
And there's also, it feeds into the parallelism with Lincoln, whose top general is Ulysses, and
Ah,
then all the other clues that we have earlier in previous episodes about the Solar King and how Ulysses and Odysseus are Solar Kings. This gets into like, how do we do this? Like, these are like, I feel like I could make graphs of like all the different, like I could do like these scatter graphs or whatever, and like, okay, these are the pings for solar figures. I don't know how I'm going to be convincing about this, but it's like I need some sort of objective, almost quasi-scientific rendering of how the data adds up. I don't know if there's like a qualitative data analysis that we can do here of all the different um, affiliations with solar figures that are happening here. Is
right,
it
right.
perfect? I don't know. I'm going to try to talk about that a little bit here in the penultimate slide, but we'll look a little bit
Yeah, I'm
closer at that.
hoping. Yeah, I'm hoping that there would be more weight to why, because Marilyn Monroe connected to the moon. That's good. I mean, even that Penelope thing, that's amazing. I mean, if we had JFK as Ulysses, that would be hitting the nail right on the head.
I
That would
mean,
be
think about
great.
it too. Ulysses is about um, it's about going on a journey. What journey could be bigger than this going to the moon?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And that gets into this other photo here. Okay. This is another one. Now, look, there are probably 20 different photographs of her posing with books. I do not have time to diagnose them all. I think the one here where she's reading Ulysses is pretty strong. Now, this other one, she's she's got her silver hair, her platinum blonde hair laid out on this bedspread that's silvery. Like, this is very lunar to me. And then she's reading a book about how to increase your thinking ability. And it is this poetic license. It's almost like, hey, you need to get smart. You want this? You want to land on this lunar object? You better get smart. You better beat the Ruskies, right? You better learn how to launch a rocket into me. It sounds so crazy for me to say, but it's like, you better get smarter. Is that what this image is showing? That one feels like I might be reaching a little bit more. I feel less reachy about her reading Ulysses. I wanted to share this quote from Ulysses about how this isn't from Molly Bloom's soliloquy, but this is I believe this is Leopold. He said, "Under what guidance, following what signs, on land meridional, a bispherical moon revealed in imperfect varying phases of lunation through the posterior interstice of the imperfectly occluded skirt of a carnos negligent perambulating female, a pillar of the cloud by day." So here we're talking about a woman's rear end as being a bispherical moon and being associated with his guiding star. Just kind of draw draw the connection closer between women in the moon, specifically Molly and Penelope.
Yeah, yeah. That even in this little segment, he does what he does best.
Yeah,
Images and
he does.
metaphors.
He's
Good
great.
language.
He's yeah. And I'll conclude this. It is sort of an I believe this is in 1980. NASA produced a Ulysses solar probe. So NASA's not beating the mythopoetic charges by sending something to the sun and naming it Ulysses. It does tend to couple the Ulysses imagery with the Solar King.
I mean, everything that we've discussed up until this point about Ulysses. Now, the 2001: A Space Odyssey. The title, it seems more and more appropriate for it. I mean, because
Yeah,
it's a journey, and the because earlier I had a faint idea. I mean, okay, journey, that's fine. But now there's a bit more that reintegration with the female, and the last part that it's waiting for you because the monolith, it's kind of waiting and calling on you. Okay, visit me at the moon. If you find me
yeah,
there, visit me in Jupiter. So it's like it makes sense. It gets in pretty deep. Now I appreciate that. Now the
yeah,
title, it
yeah.
makes more sense.
If you understand the Odyssey is about the sacred marriage between sun and moon, then it makes perfect sense that there's conception at the end and that these are parallel, that they are meant to reinforce and complement the Apollo missions.
Yeah.
I mean,
This is good.
that makes it stronger. That makes it stronger.
That makes this is good.
Jordan, what do you think?
Yeah, it's pretty nuts, even without stretching things, just focusing on the more narrow stuff in front of us. It's all pretty wild.
Do you have any observations from a female perspective that this this blinded by patriarchy man has pointed out?
um, I hadn't thought about it too deeply in that way because we're playing with archetypes, and these are the tropes in Ulysses. These are the tropes throughout these different stories. I didn't take it as a holistic truth, if that makes sense, because every archetype
Mm,
definitionally doesn't include other parts of the Unus Mundus. So, I mean, you could sit here and say, well, this isn't talking about these aspects of the feminine and this and that. But I wasn't too concerned with that in this moment.
okay.
La-
Well,
Last time about Jackie potentially being other aspects of the feminine,
yeah.
you know? And of course, one could make a commentary on how the like shadow has been projected onto Marilyn Monroe, right? These suppressed aspects of femininity have been projected onto her. She also has the same initials as Mary Magdalene, which is super interesting to me.
That is very interesting. That is very interesting. I had not even thought about that. That's very interesting.
Yeah. Well, I see that everywhere, but
No, that's a great insight.
and my understanding is Mary Magdalene was not a whore. And just like we looked at these images of Marilyn with the Kennedys, there's no evidence of any of these stories. But that doesn't keep these myths from being propagated, from being hugely impactful on the collective psyche of Americans.
Yeah.
I think
You
the
guys ready?
feminine
Oh, so keep going. I'm sorry.
Sure. I think Marilyn Monroe is a representation of, just like Mary Magdalene, a collective who is not yet able to or ready to perceive the feminine in her wholeness and instead picks particular aspects to isolate and fixate on.
I love that you pick out the Mary Magdalene aspect of it because, it clearly associates her with Christ,
Uh-huh.
and many people would contend that Christ is another solar king, the
Correct.
dying and the dying and rising solar king, the
The
son
sun.
of God. Yeah.
Yeah, it's pretty straight. It's pretty I think that's pretty obvious. Yeah, for sure. And to me, Mary Magdalene is I several episodes ago, I don't remember when you talked about this, but you talked about kind of the unified spirit coming down and separating into Adam and Eve, and that being the whole soul individuating into different parts. Take it or leave it, but to me, like,
Yeah.
Mary Magdalene is the other aspect of Yeshua the Christ. She's the feminine polarity of that energy. Both of them to me contain what you could call Christed consciousness, but she contains the Magdalene consciousness, with the feminine presentation of the consciousness. But when you come into that union of opposites, you're integrating both aspects.
Well, the Mary part establishes a firmer connection to the moon as well, because we've
Sure.
seen that the Virgin Mary through Revelation 12 is associated with the moon. Not to mention all the other imagery that we looked at, like when we looked at the mandorlas, right? That were the result of the sun and the moon coming together, and the Virgin Mary was coming through them, sometimes with the Christ child in her stomach.
Right.
Um, I think you are introducing a whole world of archetypal imagery here that supports this point even more.
Yes. We've spoken before. To me, Marilyn's essence, her physique, her facial features are very lunar to me. She fits in that with very well. The collage you opened with today with her in red, which also is associated with Mary Magdalene and not Mother Mary. Mother Mary
Right.
is more associated with blues.
That's right.
Mary Magdalene is definitely associated with red
I
very
wonder
often.
I wonder about how we have this. Like, we have all these, it's a kind of a quirky thing that I've stumbled over when reading the Bible, but, like, the fact that we have, like, so many Marys,
Mhm.
especially in the New Testament, like there's, like, confusion about who the Marys are that are at the cross and at the tomb. It's like, is this Mary Magdalene? Is this his mother Mary? Like, is this a different Mary? Like, there's, like, 3 different Marys, and one has to wonder if that's somehow connected to perhaps different phases of the moon.
Mm. That's a great question. I don't know. So I'll explore on my own what Mary means. It doesn't immediately feel like a title, right? There's some names like Christ is kind of known to be a title in a sense, not a person's name. I don't know. I don't know what Mary means, but maybe she'll let me know. I'll ask.
It's weird too, like the initials of JFK, it's like they're not too far off from, like, JK and JC. It's close.
Just kidding.
Mm. Alright, we gotta talk about some Tennyson. Do you
Uh,
guys wanna talk about Tennyson
yes.
or what?
I mean, the you mentioned about the confusion of names with Mary. I think that could be something intentional on their part, or some sort of remnant of how every woman is supposedly being. It's like people in characters in stories. I don't want to say that Bible is a story. It's like it's a thing in literature. Like, people are often portrayed as mirrors of themselves, or if people often carry different characters with them. So there's like, if you're seeing Mary, there's like Nina Simone said that I am all woman. So it's that's that kind of thing. Like, every woman is supposed to be Mary. Every woman is mourning about his death. Every woman is the Virgin Mary as well, and she is also Mary Magdalene as well. There are two aspects. I think that kind of union is going on. That kind of artistic rendering of the life that we see around us. It's like we don't put these things at in hierarchy. These are the same aspects of they're different aspects of the same person, and now we have chosen these historical uh, characters to carry these meanings forward. Just like in Ulysses, it might be a real story that would have historically happened, but now they have used those historical things to imbue them with metaphorical meaning. I mean, that is what happened with Mahabharat in Indians, because we know that battle was fought. We have some historical records of that, but we do not have historical records as in that they were kind of gods as they are depicted in Mahabharat. So what the writer did, the of the Mahabharat, he found a historical event that was very much that he thought could represent and encompass the realities of life and the learning that he had found, and then he projected his learning onto the different characters and gave them lines to say, just like Shakespeare does to the characters he picked up from the Nordic mythology. So I think this is what is going on. I mean, I'm going all over the place, but it's like there's an artistic license being drawn upon. You talked about it representing different phases of the moon. I think this is about, different aspects of a woman being represented, as you cannot distinguish between them anymore. It's like it could be Virgin Mary, it could be
No,
Mary Magdalene. There's a polyvalence there, so they want
no.
to have that ambiguity there, and you can tell the difference. That first you have encountered everything about the Virgin Mary, you've learned about her, now you've lived your life as Christ with Mary Magdalene, and now different Marys are coming there. You don't know which one is which, but like they're both them. I mean, that's what I think. I
Good
don't know.
stuff. Good stuff. Good stuff. All right, let's talk about Tennyson. We're at the 2-hour mark. Can we go to the next slide, Jordan? Okay. So hopefully, I'll try to make the case. Oh, we lost Jordan, but I'll try to make the case that the connection between Kennedy and Lincoln is a little stronger, and I think I found a synchronicity here that I don't think anyone else has pointed out, and the solar hero imagery. So where do I want to begin? If you look here where the arrows are, this is from I believe this is from the JFK archives. This is, and it's just straight up, and this I believe it's contained within the chart that I showed earlier with Lincoln and Kennedy side by side. But you'll see that it's without contest that JFK's favorite poem was Ulysses by Tennyson. And you see here that this is from the desk of Evelyn Lincoln, which was his personal secretary, right? So the Lincoln secretary is letting you know that Kennedy is all about Ulysses. And it's not just JFK that was interested in Ulysses. The entire Kennedy family was super obsessed with this poem. You can see that JFK used it, RFK used it, Kerry Kennedy, and perhaps most notably in recent times, Edward or Teddy Kennedy. He has a very famous speech that I believe he gave at the 1980 DNC convention. This to strive, to seek, to find, and not to yield line gets repeated over and over again. And RFK, I believe he had a book called "To Seek a Newer World," which is based off of the Tennyson poem. Okay, so why is the Tennyson poem interesting? The Tennyson poem is interesting. It's like later on in Ulysses' life, right, where he needs to have one last adventure, right? He needs to do something that he's growing restless. He needs to conquer a horizon that has never been conquered before. In a way, you can see how this aligned rather well with the one could perhaps argue the foolish ambitions of JFK in proclaiming that they were going to land a man on the moon. It's not unlike what Ulysses proclaims he's going to do in the poem. But because, and I mentioned this earlier, I think that this poem, the association of the general with Lincoln, in a way establishes another synchronistic link between the solar hero and Kennedy and Lincoln. and I've mentioned this throughout, that Ulysses, in a way, carries forward the healing of the nation, whereas the Apollo program, the solar hero, carries forward the mission, the soul, the animating ideals of JFK. And it's all bound up in this nexus surrounding the solar hero. And so it, I think this is part of the evidentiary trail that I would offer. And we've talked around about this a lot, but it's just another strong connective piece of data that associates Kennedy with Ulysses.
Yeah, I agree. This is
Okay.
good.
Okay. All right. I might be repeating myself a little bit, but do you want to?
No, no, no.
But just like the whole idea, why did we go to the moon? No one. It's like Russians, Sputnik, technology, Tang. Like, what was it? Like, it's like, oh, because it's there. That's kind of the MO of Ulysses and Tennyson's poems.
Oh, right.
Yeah. Okay.
It's about it's just the ultimate ambition, the
Yeah.
moon thing. It's like it's been here for ages, and there's a restless energy in the souls of men that they I like if only we could just do this. If only. Now they don't do this because I think this is the imagination that comes out of a utopian mindset that everything is going to go good. Th- Then we can contemplate our position among the stars. Or maybe it could be that certain these astronomers they got hold of government funds or something, and they decided to leverage their position to maneuver all the government funding to their programs. But yeah, this is a vision. This is an artistic vision, I could say. Like this whole moon thing, to me, it looks like it's so like if you look at it from outside, it seems so illogical. Like, why would you want to do that? There's so many problems in your own world that you have to deal with. And what is the actual benefit? Like, if you actually do the rational thinking that those scientists are supposed to be doing, they're supposed to be rational people, but they have decided to put all their energies into creating this whole moon mission because even though it's illogical, it's a top down thing. It's not that the general populace is yearning to go on the moon and like only three people would be selected once at a time. It's not like they're going to get some benefit out of it. It's a top down ideology and it's an artistic vision. It's a rendering. It's like an excess, you know. It's like you
It's
don't need
certainly
this.
not. It's certainly not militaristic or something like that. I think you could potentially argue that it wasn't just artistic. If it's like, oh, we're going to build a moon base there or something like that, and then we're going to intercept
Um,
missiles from it, but that never happened. So it
yeah,
became
that's it's
purely
it's
artistic.
just an excuse. Yeah, it's an excuse. I mean, it's ultimately an artistic vision. It's I think we lost Jordan for a bit.
She's
Okay.
back now. Oh, we might have lost the whole slide deck, but we'll see.
Hmm.
I think she's just refreshing. There we go. Well, what do you think about?
Yeah.
What do you think of? So, okay, I've done this really roundabout logic, right? I've spent all this time creating this situation where Ulysses and is like might as well be like an alter ego or like this mask of Kennedy, and and it's like an extension of himself. And in a way, you can talk about Ulysses S. Grant as being like an extension of Lincoln. Therefore, we have Ulysses and Ulysses together, like in this weird sort of archetypal math. Is this bad? Is this a bad way to think? Like, it's not as obvious. Say, like, okay, when people are putting together these synchronicity charts, right? They go, well, um, Lincoln had a secretary named Kennedy, and Kennedy had a secretary named Lincoln. Like that's like to like the midwit who's like who's like, oh yeah, see, but like I'm bringing in like James Joyce in this and Marilyn vote. Like, am I twisting imagery and logic flows in order to make this work?
The things that speak to us, they change us in so many ways that we're not even aware of. I mean, his favorite poem being Ulysses, it itself cements that fact that he was the soul and he saw himself as that, and he literally became the president of the country. I mean, it's not living in some shack like dreaming about it. He is the president and he can do those things that he dreams about. and the things that the poem spoke to him.
Do you
So,
think
like,
Kennedy ever
even
just like do you think Kennedy ever just like sat back in a chair and he goes, "I am the Solar King"? Do you think that ever happened? Do you think he put that all together?
he would have thought about himself as Ulysses, but not the Solar King. He would not. He might not have figured it out that he's the Solar King, but the Ulysses thing, I think he would have gotten a lot of kick out of it because he's quoting it everywhere in his speech. He's like, "Oh, I gotta nail this line. It's gonna teach them how it's done." So
Yeah, I
he
agree with that. He
he
probably would have imagined himself as Ulysses. I think that's fair. I don't
and
know if he would be
I
like, "Oh,
mean,
I'm starting the Apollo program, therefore I'm Apollo." I don't know if he would have done that.
yeah, the Ulysses thing, that not because it's hard, because it's difficult, we have to do it. We have to go to the moon, and he would have thought about it as a great adventure. And it's like, I'm not sure where he got this idea. I mean, like, was this discussed in your parliament, that, or in your congress, that we should do this, or like he came out all of a sudden from the woodworks? He's like, oh, we should go to the moon.
That's an interesting question. I don't that I should I'm gonna look deeper into that. Like how he was ultimately convinced to do this. I mean, they had there's some missing steps in there, right? They acquired Werner von Braun through Operation Paperclip at the end of the Second World War, and we had the Trinity test, and as we had the V2 rockets. Sputnik was his catalyzing event too. Like how he got it in his head, like, yeah, we need the moon is where we need to go. Like that's an interesting question.
I mean, that's a story we're given, that Sputnik is something that motivated those people. But I wanted to know for sure, like, what's going on in his mind. Like, are these things not supposed to be discussed with your representatives in the Congress? That, maybe I'm going to maybe do this. Like, are you sure? Like, a president can order anything.
Well, I mean, we have so little say. I mean, look, who knows? Like, I mean, we're talking about all this stuff about the interconnected mythologisms of the Trinity test and the Apollo missions, and then 2 days later, the Genesis mission gets announced out of nowhere, and no one has any idea that it's happening. It's like if we're getting into
Right, right.
simulation theory, like maybe did we force the reality's hand? Did it respond to us? Like maybe back then there were some schizos who were getting together talking about this stuff, and the Apollo mission just popped into somebody's head. I had a situation. I was talking to Jordan about this. I had a situation where I was just on like I've had situations where I'll tell you very briefly. I have a story. I'll tell you a story about how I encountered an individual with a very strange name. Okay, and I was hanging out with another friend, and he was, you know, 4 feet away from me. And I told him, I was like, "You're never gonna believe the name of this person that I met." And he immediately said the person's full name. And there was no way he could have guessed that. And he didn't know this person either. And I was like, "How on earth were you able to do that?" He's like, "I have no idea. It just popped into my head and I read it off of the script in my mind." And it seems like I projected it into his mind. And with these headline things too, like the Genesis thing, it's like we're projecting it. It might be the case that certain individuals are closer to this archetypal field and can get the downloads and put it and like broadcast things. So where this that sounds I'm going to get myself committed. I cannot say that, but
Yeah, you can.
it seems like there is some sort of psi resonance going on, and maybe there was something like that in the ether back then, and there really is no logical explanation for why it happened. Just like enough people's imagining, a bunch of sci-fi writers were thinking about this stuff, and it was like it just popped up in Kennedy's head. I don't know.
Yeah.
It still doesn't make
I mean,
sense. No, none of it makes any sense, and we're still
I mean,
trying
he
to do
could
it
not.
today.
Yeah, they're trying to do it today. It's all about conversations and narratives. I mean, with every top-down operation, it's all about affecting the narrative, getting in there sometimes, getting in the newspapers, getting into the TV shows. It's all about it. It's all about cultural influence.
We
I
have
think
3 minutes. We have 3 minutes left, and I just want to. I want to share one last slide, and then because Jordan's got to go. Sorry to cut you off, Ostic. Can we go to the Dante slide? I'm just going to say this real quick, and then we'll end here. Thank God I didn't prepare more slides. So I mentioned earlier, we have seen throughout our study so far that Dante and Virgil are coming up in this mythopoetic narrative. Well, it came up again, especially when we talk about the figure of Ulysses being potentially associated with JFK. We talked about Virgil being the psychopomp from Dante's Inferno, and he dies in the Apollo 1 fire, and just this is incredibly uncanny. It turns out that Ulysses is also in the Inferno. He is in he's in hell. He's not a good figure. Dante puts him there. And the reason why he puts him there in Canto 26, okay, you can see that him and Virgil are consulting him in hell. I believe the other figure is Diogenes. I'm not sure. But the reason why he's there is A, he defrauds everyone. He lies. Like Odysseus is not like this super noble figure. He's a trickster liar sometimes, okay? The other thing is he transgresses the boundary that God set for him. Okay? Like the character of Ulysses is a wanderer. He is going on a journey. Tennyson's Ulysses, one last hurrah. I'm going to get the boys back together. I'm going to get the mariners. I'm going to get the astronauts. We are going to conquer that last horizon. And in Dante's Inferno, the message is Ulysses is in hell because he went somewhere where God didn't want him to go. So I'm not saying JFK is in hell. I'm just saying that it's part of a pattern. It is a part of a archetypal grammar that is scripting our reality. And we might have to think about this journey to the moon as being an overreach, and that being part of the tragic nature of Ulysses. Okay, that's all. We'll cut it short there. I'll let you guys have the final words.
this is great. I mean, the things about inspiring men with a speech of noble aspiration is it's the exact same thing that he did. And
Yep.
like a lot of people talked about like intelligence operatives like Alan Dulles. He said that Kennedy he was getting too powerful. He was getting too heavy handed with us.
He thought he
That
was a
is why we
god.
had to.
He said Dulles said Kennedy thinks he's a god.
Yeah, the parallels are pretty interesting. Now I think Jordan should speak to it. This is good. This one is good.
I gotta go, but this was awesome. Anything before I wrap it?
Nope, that's it. Thanks,
Okay.
guys.
Bye, guys.
Bye.